Okay, everybody, I wanted to kind of give you guys a look at this. Looks like a blank slate as it's supposed to. Okay, this is supposed to be sort of a blank slate. I was trying to think of some ways for you guys to figure out how to get into some of the different things you can do for your research. And so I'm going to try to give you guys some tips on what you can do to choose a topic for the class and how to start researching. First of all, you all have access to Microsoft Office. I recommend that while you're online, open up a blank Word document and just use it as a place to copy and paste things that you might need. It sounds silly, but it really kind of works. It does for me anyway. You know, maybe it doesn't work for you, but this is a place where you can do that. So let's go to the first page of your course. So you actually, sign in, and we're going to be in Module 2. Now, one of the first things that you want to check, of course, are announcements. The announcements, of course, are right here where it says most recent announcements. And sometimes it takes a minute for it to come up. Some of these will you haven't seen yet, but they will be coming up. So, keep an eye on them. If you've missed one, how do you know if you've missed one? Well, you don't. So you have to go to the course menu and go to the announcements page. If you don't sign in between Monday and Friday, you're going to miss possibly announcements that I've put in between. I always do a Monday announcement. So what you need to do is you'll need to see, well, what did I miss? And you can see right now I've already put in quite a few things here about how to find things and so forth. One of the biggest things I want to show you here, and I'm going to probably post it with this particular video, is the library guide. This is going to be helpful, and I don't know why it's not in the class directly, but I'm giving it to you right here so you can see it. And so as you go into this, one of the first things, of course, we're going to want to go to is we're going to go to the modules, and then we're going to go to Module 2, which is over here. Now, some of the things you can look at, of course, you're going to do your, you should always read the introduction. You've got your Module 2 approaches. This is where you go into your the MindEdge texts. And then some of the things that we're going to be talking about here, you've got your short responses. And then, of course, the writing plan progress check. Here is where you check your rubric. And I always go and say, look at the rubric, see what's on the rubric. Sometimes it gives you ideas of what you can start with. And sometimes, not always, there's little tiny, embedded in all this is the, sometimes are links, and I don't see any. See, it says you have to have one page at minimum, 12-point font, has all that. And then it tells you what you're supposed to do, what event you're going to choose. So how do I choose an event? Well, there are several events that you can choose. So let's go back to, you got this little window here. Let's go back to, no, that's not going to help. Go back to the assignment information, which will take us back to our page here. One of the things that you should do, also take a look at, and on here is academic support. This isn't just for academic help or whatever, or writing centers and everything else. Sometimes they have links in there as well. You'll also notice that when you go to Module 2 that, like I said, a lot of the information is not here. For example, there is some on the bottom. Here's an academic support module. Here is the appendix. You're going to need this for writing for APA. Making sure you cite everything in the correct method. Now, if you go back to the announcements, and you'll be able to see this, we can go, I think a good place to start is the History 200 Library Guide. And here is the link. It'll bring it up. Now, here are some of the things that we're talking about. Some of the various, sources that you can look for. And a lot of these topics are do have things that can help you find historical sources. There's a lot of things you could choose here, and if you choose your own topic, it's going to require an okay from me. It should be an American topic, so if you decide to do something else, that's fine. But you can't do an assignment that's already been sort of pre-programmed by another class. So again, we'll have to take a look. So here, let's go into the Cherokee Indian removal. Okay, this gives you an idea of just here about some of the background. So you're not really sure exactly what to do. Here it tells you about what the Indian removal policy was and some of the things that you could find. You've got a place to look for primary sources here, which will give you some places to go look for where you can find information. What we see here is we're going to look at the Cherokee removal sort of as an example, as a way to start looking for a topic. And so as you, what you should do is, let's say you choose this topic, click the Research Starter. Now, what the Research Starter does is it gives you ideas, okay? Especially if you're starting from a place where you have never really heard of this topic, or maybe you've only heard just a little bit. So take a look at some of this. Here are some of the subject terms that give you some ideas, but come down here to the Trail of Tears, and I'm going to click that, get that out of the way. So just kind of read some of the key figures here. Read some of the important key figures, and then read this entry. Now, this is not an entry that you could use to cite sources, but it can give you an idea of where to look at. And you know, as you look through some of this, you can see some of the areas. Here's some of the different ideas. Some of the principal people, John Ross, you know, who was an important person. And then down the bottom here are some great places that they have sources where you could use these sources. These are possible secondary sources. This right here says Salem Press Encyclopedia. That should be a red flag. Never cite an encyclopedia. So these are, but you can cite these sources because these up here are not encyclopedias. Some of them might be, some of them aren't, but most of them aren't. And so you could take a look at those sources depending on what you're looking at. And so take a look at the, you know, what the overall issue is, okay? And then talk about one aspect that leads up to the Trail of Tears, you know. So after reading this, you could come up with some ideas, okay? And as you've thought of this, let's go back to your blank document. Hang on. And now, in order to focus your research, you would want to say, you want to come up with a question that has 3 elements. So you want to have a question that can be used to focus you in, but have 3 components to it. And why 3? Because when you write a thesis statement, you got to have 3 causes. So one of the questions you could have are what Now, that could be your opening research question. What were 3 causes of the Indian Removal Act? Now, you want to have 3 causes because you want to be able to, maybe even more, but you want to at least have 3. So when you are ready to write a thesis statement, you will need 3 ideas, okay? So as you do your research, pull in some of the ideas. Let's go back to that page that we were on. Remember, we went to this page from the you got here from. Let's go back. Remember, we came here from the research guide. Okay, it takes it a minute to go back. So here's the research guide. Remember, and the link of the research guide will be in the particular area. Well, it's not taking me back, but here is, okay. And so let's look at some of the sources. If I wanted to look at Indian removal, what are some of the things that we could look? Hang on one sec. So here are some of your sources that we looked at as far as the bibliography. Let's look at this one by Andrew Jackson. That's an interesting one, but that might be a little too much. But, you know, here's a good one by Gene Williams. So you could copy and paste that back into your research document. Now, this is not in the APA format, and you would have to put it there. But this is a place where you could look, you could start. And so, what were the three causes? Well, one was white white expansion. There's one. So what we can do is try to find what those answer the question, what were three causes? Now, once you find the three causes, then we can write a thesis statement. But one we know was this, one was so we're just being very hypothetical. And so when you look at this, you can say, here are three things and possible things. Verify them, or once you do your research, you can also say, okay, yeah, number one is okay, but maybe not. I need a different source for number two, maybe a different one for number three. Remember, in the final project, you have to have 4 sources, and 2 have to be two primary and 2 secondary. Now that's going to be mostly in module 2, but I'm not going to go into that. Hopefully this video has helped you, and of course I expect if you're going to have questions or so forth, please email me. I'll be glad to look at them, and maybe we can even set up a virtual meeting if you need time. Okay. Now, say you couldn't find some sources, so how do we do that? Well, here's another thing. Let's go back to the HIS library guide here, okay, which is in your announcements section. So let's pull that up again. So we're going to go back to the Shapiro library. We're waiting for this to load. Sometimes sources, again, you're going to want to be able to access those sources. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time, you know, for the thing to load. Hang on one second. We're going to wait for it to load. I'll be right back. And we're back. Now, remember, there's a getting started place up here that you can look at. Provides some kind of search and gives you ideas for searching. One of the things is to kind of think about keywords. Again, these are just the topics that are within the course, so these are some places that are kind of there to help you. The citation system is down here. Remember, it's APA here. So try to look for the Boolean search, and we'll see what happens when it comes up when you click this. Now, this searches all the library areas, so you could look up things like try Cherokee and Indian removal and see what happens. So, of course, nothing happens here. So, another thing you can do is go to do a multi-search, okay? And then what we can do is look at Cherokee and Indian Removal Act. Let's do a quick search there. See what happens. Now this is going to look through a lot of databases. So start with the guide. It'll take you to the Shapiro library. The Shapiro library has a lot of these. Now let's see what we got. 255 sources. Look at that. Now, we're not really too worried about some of the publication dates, but, you know, we might want to move that. But we want to look at the side that says limit, and then let's click this one that says peer reviewed. Out of that 255, how many of those are peer reviewed? See? 35. 36 of them were peer reviewed. So these are the ones you really might want to take a look at. And these are the more modern ones. Look at that. The oldest one is from 1976. So that's pretty modern. Andrew Jackson versus, here's something right here you could look at. Full HTML. You would probably want to do the full PDF text, because that way you'll be able to download it possibly on your own and be able to look at it later on. Historical fiction, we don't want to look at that. Forget that. But you'll have to look through some of these and see if any of them will fit with what you're talking about, okay? It takes time to do research. Sometimes you might not find anything, but a lot of times, let's see, we found this one. This was the one. This is from the American Historical Review. Yeah, American History from August of 2001. It's about a 10-page paper. And so if you look, they'll give you a way to look at it, and you can look at it here as an HTML, which you're not probably going to find real interesting to read. But as you come down to the end here, written by Robert Remy. Robert Remy is well known for writing a lot of government sources, so that's not something I'm going to necessarily reject. But let's look at the PDF text instead of the HTML, because sometimes, here we go, the PDF text will help you. And if you look at the PDF text, yeah, see, this is more of a popular magazine, but if you look toward the end, nope, it doesn't give you. Sometimes they'll give you a bibliography. So that can sometimes help you as far as sometimes they'll give you other sources where you can find information as well. When the secondary sources give you information, it's okay to look at that. I mean, by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how historians do it. This is by Remy. Who was this one? Oh, well, that's not what we wanted. So I was trying to find one. That's Law and Literature. Well, Law and Literature might have something. Thomas Jefferson, the American Indians. That's going to be Marshall Court. That's going to be a little more specialized, so that may not be in the area you were looking at. But it might be. But let's say it is. Let's look at the PDF full text. Now this is going to be about 20-30 pages, which is nothing wrong with that. A lot of pictures, so that'll help. But one way to check is go all the way to the end, and in the end, see, they cited their sources, which is really good. So look at those cited sources. Look in there, see if there's any, because you can see this is from the Journal of Supreme Court History, so that's probably having to do with the Georgia decision. But you could look here, for example, there is Amy Abel, the history of, having to do with Indian consolidation west of the Mississippi. Here is a source that you might be able to use. So when you look at secondary sources, look to see if there are sources. So I hope this helps. Let's go back to the document. So let's say once you found your 3 reasons, okay? So if these were the 3 reasons, let's try to come up with a thesis statement, because a thesis statement has to have this format. You have to have cause 1, or cause, let's do it this way, cause, reason 1, you'll have these clauses that are attached together. So you would have a thesis that would say something like, because of the increased demands of white settlers for land, for Cherokee land. Well, let's just say native land. The discovery of gold in Georgia on native, and the lack of camaraderie, or the lack of, and the now, this is how you would kind of put it together, okay? Because this is how it's living in close. I'm going to change this all so you can see it. Gotta get all the things right. So, here are your three causes. They're not the three causes, but these are three causes you found, okay? So, these, and they could be completely different, and they're interchangeable. So you could say, because of the increased demands of white settlers for native land, the discovery of gold in Georgia on native land, and the problems with natives or whites living in close proximity, you know, Congress passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Now, that tells us these are the three things that you're going to look at. You're focusing on those three things. This is being more than enough for a 6 to 7 page paper. And it'll give you focus on what areas you're going to research. So, if you want to have a virtual meeting or so, give me a call, send me an email. We'll be able to set up something maybe next week, and we'll be able to actually focus in on this more directly. I hope this helps. Thank you.